Stop chasing people who don't want to be caught, because the moment you flip this script, you'll become absolutely magnetic to the right ones. I know this sounds counterintuitive, especially when every fiber of your being is screaming that you need to try harder, do more, be better to earn someone's love. But here's what quantum physics and spiritual teachers like Neville Goddard have been trying to tell us: you're literally repelling the love you want by chasing it. Your energy and vibration are broadcasting desperation, and the universe is responding by sending you people who are comfortable being chased rather than people who are excited to pursue you. This isn't about playing hard to get or manipulation tactics. This is about understanding that your divine spark is so powerful, so magnetic, that when you stop abandoning yourself to chase others, you naturally become the prize that everyone wants to win. Think about it: every person you've ever been obsessed with, every relationship where you felt like you were doing all the work, every situation where you were more invested than they were. What if I told you that your desperation was actually the very thing pushing them away? Joe Dispenza teaches us that we create our reality through our thoughts, emotions, and energy, and when you're constantly in pursuit mode, you're programming your nervous system to believe that love is scarce and must be hunted down. But your higher self knows the truth: you are love, you are worthy of being pursued, and the right people will chase you when you stop running toward those who are running away. This spiritual journey isn't about becoming someone different, it's about remembering who you've always been underneath all that conditioning that taught you to beg for what should be freely given. The most successful people in love aren't the ones who chase the hardest, they're the ones who understand their own worth so deeply that they naturally attract others who recognize and celebrate that worth. When you shift from being the pursuer to being the pursued, you're not just changing your dating strategy, you're literally transforming your entire relationship with the universe and your own divine nature. This expansion of consciousness creates a ripple effect that touches every area of your life, from your career to your friendships to your spiritual evolution. But this transformation requires you to do something that terrifies most people who've been living in chase mode. You have to stop running toward people who aren't running toward you, and start walking confidently in your own direction, knowing that the right ones will catch up. You know that feeling when you look back at your relationships and realize there's this weird pattern? Like, every single person you've been drawn to seemed to carry some kind of emotional baggage, some wound that needed healing, some broken piece that called out to your nurturing soul. It's not a coincidence, it's quantum physics in action, where your energy and vibration are literally magnetizing specific types of people into your reality. The universe responds to our subconscious beliefs about love, and if deep down you believe that love must be earned through service, through fixing, through being the savior, then that's exactly what you'll attract. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that your higher self is trying to show you something profound about your spiritual journey. Your consciousness has been programmed to believe that love is conditional, that it requires effort and sacrifice to be worthy of receiving it. The truth is, this pattern runs deeper than most people realize. It's connected to your divine spark and how you perceive your own worthiness. When Neville Goddard talked about the power of assumption, he was pointing to this exact phenomenon. We attract what we assume to be true about ourselves and our relationships. If you assume that your role is to be the healer, the fixer, the one who transforms others through love, then you'll consistently find yourself in situations where that assumption plays out. Think about Sarah, a successful marketing executive from Denver, who realized she'd dated 3 consecutive men who were emotionally unavailable but had so much potential. Each relationship followed the same script. She would pour her energy into helping them heal, believing that once they were fixed, they would finally be able to love her the way she deserved. The spiritual energy she was investing was massive, but it was flowing in the wrong direction, outward instead of inward. This pattern isn't just about romantic relationships, it shows up everywhere in your life: friendships, family dynamics, even professional relationships. You become the person everyone turns to when they need emotional support, practical help, or someone to listen to their problems. While this might make you feel needed and valuable, it's actually a form of spiritual bypassing that keeps you from accessing your own prosperity and abundance. Joe Dispenza teaches us that we create our reality through our thoughts, emotions, and actions, and when you're constantly focused on fixing others, you're unconsciously telling the universe that you're not enough as you are. Your vibration becomes one of lack of love, lack of worthiness, lack of being seen for who you truly are. This creates a feedback loop where you attract more people who need fixing, because that's the energy signature you're broadcasting. The most fascinating part about this pattern is how it masquerades as love and compassion, when in reality, it's often a sophisticated form of control and self-abandonment. When you believe that you can fix someone, you're operating from the assumption that they're broken, and more importantly, that your love has the power to heal them. This isn't true spiritual evolution, it's ego dressed up as enlightenment. Real love doesn't try to change anyone, it accepts them exactly as they are while maintaining clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept in your life. The people who truly love you won't need to be fixed because they'll show up already whole, already committed to their own spiritual journey, already capable of meeting you where you are. They'll be attracted to your authenticity, not your ability to rescue them from their own choices. But here's where it gets really interesting, and where most people miss the deeper spiritual lesson. This pattern of attracting people who need fixing is actually your soul's way of showing you that you believe you need fixing too. It's a mirror reflecting back your own relationship with yourself, your own sense of worthiness, your own beliefs about what makes someone deserving of love. When you can see this pattern clearly, when you can recognize it without judgment, you're actually at the threshold of a major breakthrough in your expansion of consciousness. The universe is preparing you to understand something much deeper about the nature of love, about your own divine worth, and about what it really means to create healthy, reciprocal relationships. And that understanding starts with looking at where these beliefs about love and worthiness first took root. The roots of this pattern stretch back to those formative years when your little heart was trying to figure out how love actually works in this world. Picture a 5-year-old version of yourself, watching the adults around you, maybe your father who was always busy with work, emotionally distant, or your mother who seemed to love you more when you were quiet, well-behaved, and didn't cause any trouble. Your developing consciousness was like a sponge, absorbing these early lessons about what it takes to be worthy of love and attention. This is where quantum physics meets psychology. Your young mind was literally programming itself based on the energy and vibration of your earliest relationships. The universe was teaching you through experience, and unfortunately, many of us learned that love was conditional, that it had to be earned through good behavior, through being useful, through not being too much for the people we needed most. Those childhood experiences created what spiritual teachers call core wounds, deep beliefs about your worthiness that operate below the conscious level but drive so much of your adult behavior. When Neville Goddard spoke about the power of assumption, he was pointing to these exact unconscious beliefs that shape our reality. If your father was emotionally unavailable, your child mind might have concluded, "I'm not interesting enough to hold daddy's attention," or "if I can just be good enough, maybe he'll notice me." These aren't logical conclusions, they're survival mechanisms that your nervous system created to make sense of confusing emotional experiences. Your higher self, even as a child, was trying to protect you by figuring out the rules of love in your family system. The problem is that these childhood assumptions about love become the blueprint for all your future relationships, creating a spiritual pattern that keeps attracting similar dynamics into your adult life. The most common belief that emerges from these early experiences is what I call the good girl complex, the deep conviction that love must be earned through perfect behavior, through being helpful, through never being a burden. Take Jennifer, a successful therapist from Austin, who realized in her 40s that she'd spent her entire life trying to be the good girl her emotionally unavailable mother had seemed to prefer. Every relationship, every friendship, every professional interaction was filtered through this lens. How can I be useful? How can I make myself valuable? How can I earn their love and approval? This isn't just psychology, it's energy in motion, a vibrational pattern that attracts people who are comfortable receiving but not necessarily giving. The universe responds to our deepest beliefs about ourselves, And when you believe that your worth comes from what you do rather than who you are, you magnetize people who will gladly let you prove your worth over and over again. This childhood programming creates what Joe Dispenza calls a familiar feeling, an emotional signature that feels like home, even when it's not healthy. Your nervous system becomes addicted to the feeling of trying to earn love, of working hard to be worthy, of proving your value through service and sacrifice. It's a form of spiritual bypassing that keeps you from accessing your true divine spark, the part of you that is inherently worthy of love, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. The expansion of consciousness that comes from healing these wounds isn't just about understanding them intellectually, it's about literally rewiring your nervous system to recognize that you are already whole, already complete, already deserving of love exactly as you are. This is the real work of spiritual evolution, not just understanding these patterns, but actually changing the vibrational frequency that creates them. But here's what's truly fascinating about this spiritual journey: those childhood wounds, as painful as they were, actually contain the seeds of your greatest gifts. The sensitivity that made you so attuned to others' emotions, the empathy that drives you to help and heal, the deep capacity for love that you carry, these are all expressions of your divine nature. The universe didn't give you these experiences to punish you, it gave them to you because your soul knew you were strong enough to transform them into wisdom. Every person you've tried to fix has been a teacher, showing you something about your own relationship with worthiness and love. The question isn't whether you can heal these childhood wounds, it's whether you're ready to stop abandoning yourself in the name of love. And that journey begins with recognizing how these early patterns have shaped not just who you choose to love, but how you've learned to love yourself. The good girl persona is one of the most sophisticated forms of self-abandonment disguised as virtue that exists in our society. She's the woman who always says yes when she means no, who smiles when she's hurting, who bends herself into impossible shapes to avoid conflict or disappointment. This isn't just a personality trait, it's a spiritual prison that keeps you disconnected from your authentic self and your divine spark. When you're operating from the good girl energy, you're essentially telling the universe that your true thoughts, feelings, and desires don't matter as much as keeping everyone else comfortable. This creates a vibrational frequency of self-betrayal that attracts people who are perfectly happy to let you abandon yourself for their benefit. The expansion of consciousness requires us to recognize that being good in this way isn't actually good at all. It's a form of spiritual self-harm that keeps you from accessing your full power and potential. The good girl has been programmed to believe that her worthiness depends on being agreeable, helpful, and non-threatening. She's learned to suppress her authentic reactions, to minimize her needs, to make herself smaller so others can feel bigger. Think about Maria, a successful architect from Seattle, who realized she'd spent 20 years in a marriage where she never once expressed what she actually wanted for dinner, let alone what she wanted from life. Every decision was filtered through the lens of what would make him happy, or what would cause the least conflict. This isn't love, it's a sophisticated form of self-erasure that Neville Goddard would call living from a false assumption about your own nature. When you assume that your role is to be the accommodating one, the understanding one, the one who never makes waves, you create a reality where your authentic self gets buried deeper and deeper beneath layers of performance and people-pleasing. The universe responds to this energy by bringing you situations where you'll be asked to abandon yourself over and over again. Now, let's talk about her shadow sister, the bad girl energy that most good girls have been taught to fear and reject. The bad girl isn't actually bad, she's authentic, boundaried, and unapologetically herself. She says no without elaborate explanations, she expresses her desires clearly, she prioritizes her own well-being without guilt. This energy terrifies the good girl because it represents everything she's been taught is selfish, difficult, or unlovable. But here's the spiritual truth that Joe Dispenza teaches us about energy and vibration: the qualities you've been taught to suppress are often the very qualities that would set you free. The bad girl energy is actually your divine feminine power trying to break through the conditioning that keeps you small. She's not selfish, she's self-honoring. She's not difficult, she's clear about her boundaries. She's not unlovable, she's modeling what it looks like to love yourself enough to be authentic. The journey from good girl to integrated woman isn't about becoming selfish or cruel, it's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you've given away in the name of love. It's about recognizing that your anger, your desires, your boundaries, your authentic voice are all sacred expressions of your spiritual journey. When you suppress these aspects of yourself, you're not just hurting yourself, you're actually robbing the people in your life of the gift of knowing the real you. The good girl thinks she's being loving by accommodating everyone, but she's actually being dishonest. Real love requires authenticity, and authenticity requires the courage to disappoint people sometimes. This is where the rubber meets the road in your spiritual evolution. Are you willing to risk being disliked for being yourself, or will you continue to sacrifice your soul for the illusion of approval? The most profound realization in this spiritual journey is understanding that the good girl persona was never actually protecting you, it was protecting everyone else from having to deal with your authentic self. Every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you smiled when you were angry, every time you minimized your needs to make space for someone else's, you were sending a message to the universe that your authentic self wasn't welcome here. But your higher self has been patiently waiting for you to remember that you are not here to be convenient for others, you're here to express your divine nature fully and completely. The people who truly love you want to know the real you, shadows and all. They want to see your anger when you're angry, your joy when you're happy, your authentic desires and dreams. And as you begin to honor these parts of yourself, you'll start to notice something interesting happening in your relationships. One of the most devastating beliefs that emerges from childhood wounds is the idea that love is something you earn through performance, effort, and good behavior rather than something you naturally deserve by virtue of being alive. This belief transforms love from a natural flow of energy between two people into a transactional relationship where affection becomes currency and you're constantly trying to accumulate enough good behavior points to purchase the love you crave. When you operate from this paradigm, you're essentially telling the universe that your worthiness is conditional, that your divine spark needs to be justified through actions and achievements. This creates a vibrational frequency of scarcity around love. You're always worried about running out of credit, always trying to do more, be more, give more to maintain your account balance. Neville Goddard taught us that we create our reality through our assumptions, and when you assume that love must be earned, you magnetize people who are perfectly comfortable letting you work for their affection indefinitely. This transactional approach to love shows up in countless ways throughout your daily life, often so subtly that you don't even recognize it's happening. You might find yourself saying yes to social plans you don't want to attend because you're afraid of disappointing someone. You might overwork yourself at your job, staying late and taking on extra projects, not because you love the work but because you're trying to earn approval and recognition. In relationships, you might find yourself constantly giving gifts, offering help, or going out of your way to be useful, believing that these actions will generate love in return. Consider Rachel, a marketing director from Phoenix, who realized she'd been buying expensive gifts for her boyfriend's children, not because she genuinely wanted to, but because she believed that being generous would make them like her and, by extension, make their father love her more. This isn't generosity, it's a sophisticated form of love begging that keeps you trapped in a cycle of spiritual poverty where you're always giving from an empty cup. The quantum physics principle that governs this dynamic is simple: energy flows where attention goes, and when your attention is constantly focused on earning love rather than being loved, you create a reality where love always feels just out of reach. Joe Dispenza explains that we literally rewire our brains through repeated thoughts and emotions, and when you're constantly in the energy of what do I need to do to be loved, you're training your nervous system to believe that love is scarce and conditional. This creates what spiritual teachers call a poverty consciousness around love. You're always worried about not having enough, not being enough, not doing enough to maintain the love you have. Your higher self knows that love is your natural state, that you are literally made of the same energy as the universe itself, but your conditioned mind has learned to believe that this divine love must be earned through human effort and performance. The most insidious part of this belief system is how it masquerades as virtue and selflessness when it's actually a form of emotional manipulation and self-abandonment. When you're constantly doing things to earn love, you're not actually loving, you're negotiating. You're not being generous, you're investing in a hope for return. Real love, authentic spiritual love, doesn't require payment or proof or performance. It simply is. It flows naturally from one being to another without conditions or contracts. When you can love someone without needing them to love you back in a specific way, when you can be kind without keeping score, when you can give without expecting reciprocation, you're operating from your true divine nature. This is the expansion of consciousness that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire experience of being alive. You stop being a beggar at the feast of love and start recognizing that you are the feast itself. The journey from transactional love to unconditional love begins with a radical act of self-compassion, recognizing that you have been trying to earn something that was always yours by right. Your worthiness of love isn't dependent on your achievements, your usefulness, your ability to make others happy, or your capacity to solve other people's problems. You are worthy of love because you exist, because you are a unique expression of the divine spark that creates and sustains all life. When you truly embody this truth, when you stop trying to earn love and start allowing yourself to receive it, something magical happens in your relationships. People begin to respond to your authentic energy rather than your performance. They're drawn to your presence rather than your presence. And most importantly, you begin to attract people who love you for who you are, not for what you do. But this transformation requires something that terrifies most people who've been living in the earn love paradigm. The moment of truth in your spiritual journey arrives when you must choose between the familiar comfort of trying to earn love and the terrifying freedom of demanding it as your birthright. This is where the rubber meets the road in your expansion of consciousness, when you realize that staying in a relationship or situation that doesn't honor your authentic self is actually a form of spiritual self-harm. It's the moment when you look at that person who keeps you in emotional limbo, who gives you just enough attention to keep you hoping but never enough to feel secure, and you finally say, "I deserve more than this." This isn't about being demanding or difficult, it's about recognizing that your divine spark is worth more than situationships, breadcrumbs, and half-hearted commitments. When you choose to honor your own worth, even when it means walking away from someone you love, you're aligning yourself with the quantum physics principle that like attracts like. You're literally raising your vibration to match the love you want to receive. The courage required for this choice cannot be understated, because it means dismantling the entire infrastructure of your people-pleasing persona. Take Sarah, a successful consultant from Denver, who had been in an on-and-off relationship for 2 years with a man who claimed he wasn't ready for anything serious but continued to enjoy all the benefits of her devotion. The moment she decided to honor her authentic desire for a committed relationship, everything changed. She stopped being available for his late-night calls, stopped accommodating his schedule, stopped pretending that being his maybe someday was enough. This wasn't about playing games or using manipulation tactics, it was about finally telling the universe that she was ready to receive the love that matched her own depth and commitment. Neville Goddard taught us that we must first become the person who naturally attracts what we desire, and Sarah became a woman who naturally attracted serious, committed love by refusing to accept anything less. The most challenging part of this transformation is learning to sit with the discomfort of potentially losing someone rather than abandoning yourself to keep them. Your conditioned mind will scream that you're being selfish, that you're throwing away love, that you should be grateful for whatever attention you're receiving. But your higher self knows that real love doesn't require you to shrink, to hide your needs, to pretend you're satisfied with less than your heart truly desires. This is where Joe Dispenza's teachings about energy and vibration become crucial. When you're constantly in the energy of "I'll take whatever I can get," you're literally programming your nervous system to expect and accept substandard treatment. The universe responds to your energetic signature, and when you vibrate at the frequency of desperation and scarcity, You magnetize people who are comfortable giving you exactly that. Not enough, not quite, not yet. Choosing authenticity over approval means accepting that some people will leave your life when you stop being who they need you to be and start being who you actually are. This is not a loss, it's a clearing. Every person who can't love the real you is blocking space for someone who can. Every situationship you tolerate prevents you from being available for a real relationship. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're teaching the universe that your authentic desires don't matter. But when you finally choose to honor your truth, even when it's scary, even when it means being alone for a while, you're creating space for miracles. You're telling the universe that you're ready for love that matches your depth, commitment that honors your worth, and relationships that celebrate your authentic self rather than requiring you to dim your light. The most profound realization in this spiritual journey is understanding that being rejected for who you truly are is infinitely better than being accepted for who you're pretending to be. When you choose self-worth over settling, when you demand authenticity over approval, you're not just changing your love life, you're literally rewiring your entire relationship with reality. You're stepping into your role as a conscious co-creator of your experience, someone who understands that you don't have to settle for less than your heart desires because you are worthy of extraordinary love simply by virtue of being alive. This choice, to honor your authentic self even when it's terrifying, is the gateway to a completely different kind of relationship, one where you're not constantly trying to earn love but simply allowing yourself to receive it. And that receiving begins with the radical act of believing that you deserve it. So here's the real question you need to ask yourself right now. Are you ready to stop chasing people who don't want to be caught and start attracting the love that actually matches your worth? Because everything we've talked about today, the pattern of fixing others, the childhood wounds, the good girl persona, the belief that love must be earned, the choice to honor your authentic self, it all means nothing if you don't actually apply it to your life. Your spiritual journey and expansion of consciousness isn't a spectator sport, it's something you have to actively participate in. Right now, as you're listening to this, your higher self is asking you, when will you finally choose yourself? The universe is waiting for you to step into your divine spark, to embrace your authentic power, to stop settling for breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole feast. Joe Dispenza teaches us that we create our reality through our thoughts and emotions, and if you keep thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same feelings, you'll keep attracting the same types of relationships and situations. I want you to really sit with this for a moment. What would your life look like if you completely stopped trying to earn love and started expecting it as your birthright? What would change in your relationships if you refused to accept anything less than mutual respect, genuine interest, and authentic commitment? The quantum physics principle is clear: energy flows where attention goes, and when you start putting your attention on your own worth instead of on trying to make others see it, everything shifts. Your vibration changes, your energy becomes magnetic, and suddenly you're attracting people who are excited to pursue you rather than people who are comfortable being chased. This isn't about becoming cold or playing games, it's about finally aligning with your true nature as a powerful, worthy, divine being who deserves extraordinary love. Neville Goddard would tell you to assume the feeling of already being loved the way you want to be loved, and watch how the universe rearranges itself to match that assumption. But here's what most people don't realize about this transformation: it requires you to be willing to be alone with yourself, to face your own shadows, to heal those childhood wounds that have been driving your choices. Are you ready to do that work? Are you ready to stop abandoning yourself every time someone shows you even a little bit of attention? Because the person who's meant to love you, really love you, is looking for the authentic you, not the performance version you've been offering. They want to see your boundaries, your standards, your authentic desires and dreams. They want to know what makes you angry, what makes you laugh, what lights up your soul. And they definitely don't want to be with someone who's constantly trying to earn their love through good behavior and people-pleasing. Your spiritual evolution depends on you choosing authenticity over approval, even when it's scary, even when it means some people will walk away. Think about this. Every day you spend trying to fix someone else or trying to earn love you're not receiving is a day you're not available for the love that wants to find you. Every situationship you tolerate, every half-hearted commitment you accept, every time you say yes when you mean no, you're literally blocking your own prosperity and abundance and love. The universe can't deliver what you're asking for if you're not willing to receive it, and you can't receive authentic love if you're not willing to be authentic yourself. So I'm challenging you right now, pick one relationship in your life where you've been doing all the chasing, all the work, all the accommodating. What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you started honoring your own energy, your own time, your own worth? What would happen if you demanded reciprocity instead of accepting one-sided dynamics? The answer might surprise you, and it might just change your entire life. Your expansion of consciousness begins the moment you decide that you're worth more than settling. It begins when you choose to trust your higher self over your conditioned mind, when you choose your authentic desires over what you think you should want, when you choose self-love over self-abandonment. The spiritual journey isn't about becoming someone different, it's about remembering who you've always been underneath all that conditioning. You are not here to be convenient for others, to make yourself smaller so they can feel bigger, to earn love through performance and sacrifice. You are here to express your divine nature fully and completely, and the right people will celebrate that expression, not try to diminish it. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to stop being the chaser and start being the prize, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell because we're going to keep diving deep into these spiritual truths that can transform your entire reality. Your journey to magnetic, authentic love.